Hey guys, Robbie K here, coming at you with another movie review. Now tonight, we're looking at probably the only movie that's really coming out that most people will see, assuming you have still the wonderful world of advertisement that cable brings. Nevertheless, tonight is a late-going horror movie called The Possession of Hannah Grace, with the tagline of, this isn't no ordinary exorcist movie, this is what happens after. So as a result, yours truly is in the trenches, hoping to give you a fun movie review. Let's see what we've got. As always, thank you very much for choosing Robbie K's movie reviews. We're going to do our best, but let's break it down for those of you who are new. Essentially, we start with the trailer. We then go into what... Ooh, I gotta put my hat on. I got chilly. Well, kinda. Never mind. We go into essentially then kind of a quick and dirty review, so that way you can kind of get in and out if that's what you're looking for. And then we just kind of throw it right back in with you on we throw it back in on you with essentially what's the word I'm looking for? The likes and dislikes. So a little more detail for those who care about it. Nevertheless, welcome to another review. Let's get started. As I said, tonight's review is The Possession of Hannah Grace, a horror movie that involves essentially a person working in the morgue to help look at a body that was recently killed during an exorcism, which of course is fair game in the trailer. No spoilers here, people. As a result, they take her to the morgue, and unfortunately the person working there starts to experience weird things. What mass will arise? Well, that's kind of where I'm going to come in, but not reveal anything. So what does Robbie kind of give for the quick and dirty? Truth is that where Hannah Grace really strives and really is thriving in is the creepy atmosphere. Yes, we know horror movies are all about that creepy atmosphere, but in some cases they decide to take plunges into areas that maybe you're not planning on going to, or making extremely stupid choices that lead them into getting into entanglements with the supernatural. Unfortunately, in this one, the movie, not so much down that line, but Hannah Grace's setting of the morgue is just truly creepy. Shadow play, the fact that it's a realistic setting for someone to essentially work in. That part adds definitely the atmosphere to it. And using some of the visual effects in the opening of it, creepy and scary as hell. In regards to what's in store. Acting-wise, it's done fine, and pace-wise, fortunately, it's less than an hour and a half, so you're not going to be in here that long if you're trying to go with like a group and you have a particular member who's not the biggest fan of it. Nevertheless, you've essentially got that, when it comes to Hannah Grace, very kind of run-of-the-mill. So even though it's got some good creepy tactics, its finish game really doesn't quite work. At least it didn't for me. Again, not the worst horror movie I've ever seen, but certainly got some room for improvement as well. Now, nevertheless, that's kind of where I'm going to hold off for the quick and dirty review, so let's kind of get started with my scores. In terms of its genre of horror, I would definitely, and probably I'm going to say drama or thriller is tagged along with that. I would say it's probably a 7 and then a 5 in terms of movie overall. In regards to the film itself in terms of likes and dislikes, well, that's where we're going next. But if you're kind of tired of hearing my voice and definitely don't want any more details, this is where we leave you. And thank you very much. Please like, share, help me make this better. I'm not hearing much feedback, so either I'm doing something right or there's a lot that people would like to say, and as long as it's done professionally, I'll be happy to take the constructive criticism. Now, nevertheless, for those who decide to stick around, thank you very much. So let's go into a little more detail so I can actually give a better review. We start with the likes in this film, and essentially, here's where it goes. As I mentioned earlier, the first thing is that the runtime is great. A lot of horror movies tend to drag it out, and when you don't have necessarily the most detailed stories, that dragged out time can make you feel like you're ready to fall asleep, just so it happens after you eat on a big holiday meal. Sadly, by being fast, I think it ends up affecting the story, but we'll get to that in a minute. In terms of the second thing, when you go in there for acting-wise, for a almost one-woman cast show, She works well with it. Dynamic, kind of portraying the mindset of the person. Can't really say much more about it because I don't want to reveal or ruin anything. Essentially, she does a nice job of playing the role that she was handed to. But at the same time, we're not quite certain where she could have taken the character more because I think it needed more time. In addition to that, when it comes to visual effects, you can definitely tell that there's some fake computer generation and animation, but man, when it comes to doing some creepy movement, motion stuff, you definitely have got to hand it to them because that's probably the other creep factor for it. The bizarre paranormal movements, the unnatural, unholy display of like reanimation as it's going through. I mean, it is insane what they were able to do. And the semi-realistic approach that they did it. So, kudos to them for doing those dynamics. Now, as I said, the strongest point with this in terms of it being scary is the fact that you have got a very creepy setting. And they did very well, whether this is a real actual morgue or whether this is a setting. Hannah Grace's, stage of hunting is essentially very realistic, and that adds to the element. It's a great use of shadow, a great use of like technological lights, and a good use of making sure of slight sounds and movement to get under your skin and really give you the creeps. So I gotta give it to the elements in terms of that. It's like allowing your imagination to maximize the scares, and doing a good job of it. At least that's in my opinion. In terms of some of the other things, secondary actors do their job. You got some good morals that are kind of squeezed in there. Those are some small likes, but they're not necessarily pertinent. And I think that, again, there's at least a strong person to latch onto. But, nevertheless, nothing too major. And I guess my final like is a good use of kind of the three scares. Jump scares, paranormal scares, and creepy as heck scares. All three of which, that by being in there, will keep some things dynamic. And if you ask my two colleagues who went with me tonight, they'll definitely find it scary. Me, this is where we'll get to the dislikes. So let's move on to those. First of all, in terms of it, if you have seen as many horror movies as I do and have learned the tricks to not jumping, aka not tensing up, you're going to be fine in this movie. Like I said, the creepy stuff is going to get you at the beginning, and there's always going to be a couple of things that might stay under the skin. But when you get into the second half of the movie, and this is where the dislike's going to probably come in, you're going to find that the scares really become predictable, that it's kind of a one direction, one linear scare tactic after the other, and we'll get to that later, but just not the same flow and energy of the first part of it. Second thing is I like your story. Now, most people are going for scares, get it, but when you have a story to loop that onto, it makes the movie more enjoyable. For instance, Woman in Black. Love the scares, love the story. It's a very good horror movie in my opinion. This one had the potential for a story. And while the character development probably gets the main arc, it's really more that there could have been a lot more done to this. More fleshing out, more details. The fact that they could have dragged the event on longer than they did. All of that could have done a lot better had we had more glimpses into it than just simple explanations. It's the one that probably could have ended up needing a second movie, hate to say it, or at least another hour to tell the tale. But again, this is kind of more of a scare fest than it is anything else. So, I would have liked a better story and probably more character integration than what we had. Not the worst, but still needing more. In regards to some of the other stuff, as I said, the scare tactics, even though they had the three kind of scare flavors, the scare tactics need to be a little more dynamic. And this is pretty much where the biggest dislike will come in later. But maybe more time, maybe more story, finding new avenues and creativity to stretch their scaring muscles. Again, not the worst, but more potential in terms of that. What else outside of the biggest dislike? I thought I had a couple more, but I'm kind of forgetting them at the moment. I guess in regards to anything else in regards to Hannah Grace, it's just the fact that maybe it's a little too simplistic. That the avenue that they were trying to go down in terms of this is not your normal possession movie, well, technically they're true on that, but I don't think the gimmick that they did was strong enough because it still felt a lot like a possession movie. Maybe that might not have been the pure focus of it, but it's still a pretty big kick concept of it. So, nothing in terms of that for me. I guess, like I said, the biggest dislike that I had for the movie, though, was definitely the ending. Now, we know when we have those movies that really start to find its swing, find the creep factor, we want more of it. It makes it fun. It makes it exciting. And even more so, it allows you to really get close to peeing your pants when you find that perfect manner of creepiness and jump scares to really get you going. Now, again, I'm definitely going to be different from a lot of people because my scare threshold is really decreasing with how many movies I've seen and learning the camera angles. And you may find this a lot scarier, but the problem is that as you got to about a little over halfway of the film, suddenly the tie-up was very rushed, in my opinion. All of a sudden, we're trying to get to the ending to cram it into that convenient 90-minute time, and in doing so, not only did we kind of skim over some important plot points, but I kind of felt that the movie then just kind of got very rushed in terms of the finishing. And that's where definitely the movie needs is a little more drawn out composure to really maximize those scares. And the rush kind of twist finale, not necessarily what I would consider the best ending, especially with the abrupt finish that comes with it. And of course, they're attempting to lead you on, and we may have it, we may not, we don't know. But there's a lot of kind of very sloppy tie-ups at the end for me that probably I don't think they were foreseeing. Maybe a director's cut will shed some light on it, but until then, who knows? So let's wrap this up. Overall, The Possession of Hannah Grace is your late in the year holiday scare fest. It's attempting to get that last bit of shock value out of you, and the truth is that the creepy dynamic of it may just do that. All in all, it's not a bad horror movie. I just think that there was some rushed editing and some interesting steps with the plot that probably could have really been brought out to really maximize what they were going for. Or perhaps this movie may have been better left if they had picked, the new year coming up to kind of finish it off. Nevertheless, I can't recommend this one for the theater without you really wanting to see a horror movie, and I really am thinking that this is probably best for renting and viewing later on. Nevertheless, guys, I appreciate you checking it out. We get a nice surprise with what looks to be an Oscar movie coming, so I may be back with that tomorrow. But if not, we'll be starting back with a busy holiday season next week, so keep a lookout. Anyways, have a wonderful night. Thank you very much. And as always, please share, help me make this better, and I will do my best to do it. Thank you very much, and have a great night. Bye.